How you guys doing? It is Monday, August 10th, 2020. I here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims. And for this episode of The Elite, I'm just going to take you guys through the elite performances of yesterday because there was a lot that happened Sunday, and just to give you some insight into what's going on with all the sports that are playing, especially with this week. So, right now, I'm going to start off with baseball first, as the Atlanta Braves took on the Philadelphia Phillies in a doubleheader in Philadelphia. In this first game, the Braves were able to take it 5-2 after scoring 5 runs in the 5th inning. First, off of a 2-run home run by Acuna, his second home run of the season. And that home run was followed up by a bases loaded, base clearing double by their pinch hitter, Adam Duvall. And with this win, the Braves are now 10-6 as the Phillies fall to 4-5. Jump to the second game where the Braves completely shut out the Phillies 8-0. Behind their starting pitcher Max Fried as he picked up his 3rd win of the season, getting 6 strikeouts in 5 innings, allowing no runs. Naturally, because the Phillies scored no runs at all. For the Phillies, Bryce Harper would finish 1 for 3 on the day with a strikeout. For the Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr. would finish 4 for 4 with 2 runs and 3 RBIs. He hit 2 home runs on the day to help the Braves get to their win. I think he was the best hitter of the day as he finished with 3 home runs on the day. Another big performance came from their elite first baseman, Freddie Freeman, as he finished 3 for 4, as he finished a single shy of the cycle, as he hit a home run, a triple, and a double, but somehow couldn't get a single in this game. For the day, he had a cycle, but for this game, he was a single shy. Very, very close. At the end of the day, the Braves were able to get their 11th win of the season as they now hold the lead over the National League East, and the Phillies now fall to 4-6. Now moving to another NL East matchup as the New York Mets face off against the Miami Marlins and handed them their 3rd loss of the season. Elite pitcher Jacob deGrom would get his 2nd win of the season, striking out 6, allowing 2 runs in 5 innings. Their first baseman Pete Alonso would finish 0 for 4, but Jeff McNeil would have 2 RBIs on the day to help the Mets get their win, get a much-needed win for them. The Nets now jump up to 7-9. The Marlins now 7-3. Now going to the AL-NL matchup in the East, as it happened between the Orioles and the Nationals. That game got postponed in the 6th inning, but as of right now, the Baltimore Orioles are winning, and I guess they're going to continue with that today. But moving on to the American League East, the Tampa Bay Rays face off against the Yankees, and the Rays were able to get a walk-off winner against the New York Yankees, as it was Michael Perez who got the single to eventually give them the win. With this win, the Tampa Bay Rays are now 8-8, and the Yankees still hold the lead over the American League East at 10-6. Starting with the Yankees, their right fielder Aaron Judge would go 0 for 5 on the day. Their elite shortstop Gleyber Torres would go 1 for 3 with a run on the day. And just not the best day for the Yankees. But even for the Rays, their first baseman, Mike Brousseau, would have a pretty good game for the day as he hit his 2nd home run of the season, and Brandon Lau would hit another home run for him as the Rays are now 8-8. And now moving on to the last AL East matchup, the Boston Red Sox hosted the Toronto Blue Jays, and they were able to beat them 5-3 off of a walk-off home run by Mitch Moreland in the bottom of the 9th, who had 2 home runs on the day for Boston. Big day for him, and even going to Toronto, Vladimir Guerrero would finish 1 for 4 with an RBI. Bo Bichette would finish 1 for 4 with an RBI as he had his 4th home run of the season, or his 2nd home run of the season, I'm sorry. But still, good game for him. Great pitching from Nathan Eovaldi as he would strike out 10, allowing 3 runs in 6 innings, as the Red Sox are now 6-9 and the Blue Jays fall to 5-8. Now let me go out to the Central. First, the Detroit Tigers face off against the Pittsburgh Pirates in the AL-NL matchup, and the Tigers were able to give the Pirates their 13th loss in 16 games. Miguel Cabrera would have the go-ahead single RBI in the 8th inning as the Detroit Tigers are now 8-5, and the Pirates now fall to 3-13. Another Central matchup going out to the AL, the Minnesota Twins, who now lead the American League Central, fell to the now 7-10 Kansas City Royals 4-2. Great pitching from their starting pitcher Brady Singer, who allowing 2 earned runs in 5 innings with 4 strikeouts would pick up his first win of the season. Jose Barrios would finish with his second loss of the season. He's now 1-2 on this season. But with this win, like I said, much needed win for Kansas City, who are now falling, and now they're now sitting at 7-10. Looking out to the last AL Central matchup, it happened between the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago White Sox, and the Cleveland Indians were able to get the rally to go ahead and eventually get the win in the 10th. Especially following Delino DeShield's sacrifice bunt and Mike Freeman's RBI single. But with this win, the Indians now jump up to 10-7, and the White Sox fall to 8-8. Now going out to the National League Central, of course, with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Cubs being postponed, the only sole NL Central matchup happened between the Cincinnati Reds and the Milwaukee Brewers. Great pitching from Brandon Woodruff as he only allowed 2 runs in 4 innings pitched, striking out 5. Sonny Gray would pick up his first loss of the season, whereas for the Rays, their only really great performance came from Jesse Winkler, who finished 3 for 4 with 2 runs and 2 RBIs as he hit his first home run of the season. For the Milwaukee Brewers, Christian Yelich would finish 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs as he hit his 4th home run of the season. Keston Hiura would finish 3 for 5 as he hit his 3rd home run of the season. Big win for the Milwaukee Brewers as they're now 6-7, and the Reds now fall to 7-9. Now going out to the West, going to start with the Angels and the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers were able to get a 7-3 win over the Angels as the Angels fall to 5-11, and the Rangers now jump up to 6-8. Lance Lynn would pick up the win as he struck out 6 and allowed 2 runs in 5 innings. And even going to the Angels, Mike Trout would finish 0 for 4 on the day. Shohei Ohtani would finish 0 for 3, or he would finish 2 for 3 with a run on the day. Big game for him, but they still lost. The big hitting performance for the Texas Rangers would go to Nick Solak. And the Rangers center fielder would go 2 for 4 with 3 runs on the day. But yeah, definitely a big win for the Angels. And of course, pushing it out to Oakland. After beating the Astros 7-2, the Oakland A's have the best record in the American League West. And in addition to a dugout clearing brawl, big games as Matt Olson would hit his 5th home run of the season as he finished 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Matt Chapman would hit his 4th home run of the season as he finished 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run. Switching to the Astros, Jose Altuve would finish 1 for 4 for the game. Alex Bregman would go 0 for 3. Much needed win for the Athletics as the Astros now fall to 7-9. And now going out to the last AL team, the Seattle Mariners beat the Colorado Rockies, who have the best record in the NL West. But they were able to beat them in Seattle as they were able to score 3 runs in the 7th inning to eventually give them the edge and give them eventually the win. Their starting pitcher, Justice Sheffield, that's right. He would finish with 7 strikeouts in his 6 innings pitched. Allowing no runs, completely shutting out the side. Great game for Seattle as they're now 6-11, and the Rockies, still leading the National League West, fall to 11-4. Nolan Arenado wouldn't play, but like I said, very big game for Seattle as they needed to prove this one win against one of the best teams in baseball right now. And then, of course, going out to San Diego, the San Diego Padres hosted the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they hit 6 home runs in the first 3 innings to give them 9 runs, and they eventually beat the Arizona Diamondbacks 9-5. Madison Bumgarner would allow 6 earned runs in 2 innings pitched for the Arizona Diamondbacks, going to the San Diego Padres just to see how they did. Fernando Tatis Jr. would finish 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run as he had his 8th home run of the season, I believe, which I think is now tied for the lead. Manny Machado, their third baseman, finished 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs as he had 2 home runs in the game last night as he is, and he now has 4 on the season. In addition, Will Myers and Ty France would hit 2 home runs for themselves as the Diamondbacks now jump up to 9-7, and the Arizona Diamondbacks, as the San Diego Padres, jump up to 9-7, and the Arizona Diamondbacks fall to 6-10. And last but not least, going out to LA, going out to Dodger Stadium, the Dodgers hit a pair of 2-run home runs to give them the win over Kyle Gausman and the San Francisco Giants. First, it was AJ Pollock, the designated hitter, that hit a 2-run home run in the 7th, and then Mookie Betts would hit the 3-run home run in the 8th. My bad, they both hit 3-run home runs. Cody Bellinger would also finish 1 for 4 with a run on the day. And with this win, the Dodgers are half a game behind the Colorado Rockies, sitting at 11-5 as the Giants fall to 7-10. And just to give you some insight into what's going on, especially today with today's games. Patrick Corbin's looking for his second win as the Nationals face off against the Mets. The Braves are going to play the Phillies, and I'm a Braves fan, so of course I'm going to watch that. Dallas Keuchel's going to start against Michael Fulmer as the White Sox take on the Tigers today. Additionally, Randy Dobnak is going to face off against Adrian Hauser as the Minnesota Twins take on the Milwaukee Brewers in a really solid pitching matchup. And additionally, Dustin May is going to make his start against Garrett Richards as the San Diego Padres take on the LA Dodgers tonight. And that's kind of really what's going on with baseball. So now I'm going to transition to what's been going on with basketball as the season's really coming close to an end. I mean, the season ends on Friday, I believe. But right now, it looks as though this is what's going to be going on, especially with basketball before the playoffs start next week. But first, I'm going to get into the games last night. First, the Washington Wizards took on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Thunder were able to beat them 121-103. For the Wizards, I mean, Rui Hachimura with 0-11. Their big performance would come from their shooting guard, Jerome Robinson, off the bench, who finished with 19 points and 6 assists in 29 minutes. And for the Thunder, Chris Paul, their elite point guard, would finish with 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 9 assists with 3 steals and 2 blocks on the day. Danilo Gallinari would pitch in 20 points, and Darius Bazley would pitch in 23 off the bench as the Oklahoma City Thunder, with this win, are now kind of situated in the 5th spot. They're sitting a game behind the Rockets and half a game ahead of the Jazz in that 5th spot. With this loss, the Washington Wizards they're 8 games behind the Magic, and I mean, they're completely out of it. I mean, they're completely eliminated from that whole discussion. But I mean, it was still good for the young players to get to play, and it was a much-needed win for Oklahoma City. Moving on to the next game, the Toronto Raptors faced off against and beat the Memphis Grizzlies as they beat it by 9 points. For the Grizzlies, their point guard John Morant would finish with 17 points and 10 assists and a monster alley-oop jam as he finished with shooting 7 for 19 for the field. Their leading scorer would be Dylan Brooks as he scored 25 points, shooting 11 for 26 from the field, took more shots than he had points. Also, Grayson Allen, Go Duke, would come off the bench with 20 points, but the Grizzlies would fall short to the Raptors. The Raptors' elite forward, Pascal Siakam, would finish with 26 points and 3 assists for the day. He shot 9 for 16 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3. Also, while Kyle Lowry added in 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists to ignore his 9 turnovers on the day. Big win for the Raptors. With this win, they're 3.5 games ahead of the Celtics, which means they should have a stronghold. I think they should have already clinched the 2nd seed, but don't take my word for it as of right now. But now going on to yet another game, the San Antonio Spurs beat the Pelicans by 9, 122-113, as the Pelicans were officially eliminated from the playoff race. Going for the Pelicans, Zion Williamson would drop in 25 points, 7 rebounds. Derek Favors would add in 10 and 12. Brandon Ingram would score 17. Their biggest scorer from the night would be J.J. Redick, who would finish with 31 points, shooting 10 for 16 from the field, 8 for 12 from 3, but it just wasn't enough. DeMar DeRozan would put in the work as he finished with 27 points for the San Antonio Spurs, shooting 10 for 16 from the field. Additionally, Rudy Gay would add in 19 off the bench. With this win, the San Antonio Spurs are sitting a full game behind the Memphis Grizzlies. They're not completely out of it, and it was a much-needed win for them. And with the Grizzlies' loss, technically they haven't officially clinched the 8th spot, and they have to do a play-in for the 8th and 9th seed, but they haven't decided which teams they are yet because their difference in win-loss, their difference is so close, they might have to end up playing for it. A big game of the night that went into overtime happened between the Orlando Magic and the Boston Celtics. Both teams have already clinched the playoffs, but of course the Celtics were definitely trying to play this just to strengthen their spot in the West or in the East. Nikola Vucevic would finish with 26 points and 11 rebounds, while for the Celtics, Jason Tatum would finish with 29 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Gordon Hayward would finish with 31 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. Adding in Jaylen Brown's 19, this would go into overtime where But to go into overtime, I believe Jason Tatum had the plays of the game as he had a turnaround jump shot to tie the game with 6 seconds left, and then he also blocked the Orlando Magic's attempt at trying to take the lead, which would send them into overtime, and the Boston Celtics would eventually win. So Jason Tatum to me had the plays of the day on both sides of the ball, and with this win, the Celtics are now 4 games ahead of the Heat and 3.5 games behind the Raptors, which means they basically secured that number 3 spot in the East. Now moving on. The Portland Trailblazers were able to beat the Philadelphia 76ers. As first for the 76ers, their shooting guard, Josh Richardson, would finish with 34 points on the night, probably one of his best games all season. Joel Embiid, the Sixers' elite center, would play 6 minutes, scoring 2 points, 4 rebounds, and also adding in an assist. Ben Simmons, of course, was out with his knee injury. And going to the Trailblazers, Carmelo Anthony would score 20 points, and Damian Lillard, performance of the night, would have 51 points, shooting 16 for 28 from the field, 4 for 12 from 3, and 15 for 16 from the foul line, also adding in 3 rebounds and 7 assists. Dude, with this win, the Portland Trailblazers, he willed them to this win. They are now half a game behind the Grizzlies, and they've made it so the Portland Trailblazers have a shot, at the very least, of making and clinching the playoffs out of the West. Big game from Damian Lillard, as it proved and it showed, the Trailblazers have another win. They inch a bit closer to the playoffs. Also, the Houston Rockets beat their Kings by 17 last night, beating them 129 to 112. Starting out with the Kings, De'Aaron Fox, their point guard, would finish with 26 points and 9 assists while shooting 9 for 7 from the field. And moving on to the Houston Rockets, James Harden would finish with 32 points, shooting 10 for 21 from the field, as Russell Westbrook did not play. Harden would make all 9 of his free throws while adding in 8 rebounds and 7 assists and 3 steals. With this loss, first off, the Sacramento Kings are now 3.5 games behind the 8th place Grizzlies. I believe they're out of contention. They might have already been eliminated. I'm not completely sure. But with this, the Rockets are now a game ahead of the Thunder, sitting comfortably in that 4th place spot, as they've really been moving up the rankings. They've been moving up the standings with an impressive performance in the bubble, and they're still a game and a half behind the 3rd place Nuggets, and they could still grab that 3rd place spot. I mean, the Rockets have done a really good job of climbing up, and especially in the West. And then, last but not least, moving out, as the Brooklyn Nets beat the Los Angeles Clippers by 9. They beat them 129 to 120. Kawhi Leonard would drop 39 points for the Clippers, and Paul George wouldn't play, but the Clippers just wouldn't do enough. As for the Nets, Joe Harris would finish with 25 points, shooting 10 for 16 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3. Karis LeVert would finish with 27. Just a big game all around for the Nets. And even off the bench, their shooting guard Tyler Johnson would finish with 21 points on the night. With this win, the Brooklyn Nets are still sitting at 7th. They're sitting 7th in the East. And after the Magic lost, they are 2.5 games ahead of the Magic. It was a much-needed win for the Nets to secure that 7th spot in the East, and now it looks like they're slated to play the Raptors instead of the Bucks in the first round. I mean, it's not like it's gonna get them into the second round or anything, but that's what was going on with basketball, especially yesterday. And looking forward to what's going on with Monday basketball, the Thunder face off against the Suns, who still have not lost in the bubble yet, and they're still trying to compete for that 8th place spot. Also, the Mavericks are going to put the Jazz on NBA TV, as they are both fighting for solid footing in the West. The Raptors play the Bucks, as they're the two best teams. They're going to play on ESPN, but they both already clinched their top 2 spots, so I'm not sure as to whether they're going to play their stars. And on TNT on primetime, the Nuggets are going to face off the Lakers, and with LeBron and/or Anthony Davis possibly playing or not playing. The Nuggets might take this win, but that's probably what basketball is looking like today. Now I move on to hockey, as the last days of their play-in for the playoffs happened yesterday. First, the Capitals beat the Bruins in 2-1 in their round-robin game. Really big game from Washington Capitals goalie Braden Holtby, as he only allowed 1 goal. TJ Oshie would score a goal for Washington, as a much-needed win for them as they took this win. And the Stars and Blues game would go to a shootout, as the Stars would beat the Blues 2-1. Big game from Blues goalie Jake Allen, as he had 37 saves on the day. But it would eventually be Dallas, as Joe Pavelski would get a goal for them and eventually help them get this win. A much needed win, especially with the round robin, how the round robin's been going. And the only series that actually sent a team home, the Columbus Blue Jackets were able to win in 5, shutting out the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-0. Great performance from their goalie, Jonas Korpisalo. Sorry if I butchered your name, but he had an amazing game. And also, great goal from their defenseman, Zach Werenski, 2 top stars of the game. Additionally, with their center, Liam Foudy, as he finished with the goal for the Columbus Blue Jackets, as they get to advance. And with no hockey today, hockey will resume on Tuesday, and then I'll kind of get into that tomorrow as that goes. But before I move to the PGA Championship, first I'm going to talk about what's happening with WNBA. Yesterday, the Los Angeles Sparks were able to beat the Minnesota Lynx last night. Crystal Dangerfield did all she could, scoring 29 points, but it just wasn't enough. Candace Parker was an assist away from a triple-double. She had 11 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists, as the Sparks are now sitting at 4-3. They're 3-0 at home. Also, the Las Vegas Aces were able to pick up their 5th win of the season as they beat the New York Liberty 78-76. Aja Wilson would finish with 31 points, kind of putting the team on her back, as it was a much-needed win for the Aces. And the last game of the night happened as the Indiana Fever beat the Washington Mystics 91-84. Kelsey Mitchell at 29 points, big game for her as they kind of advance. But going on to today, the Connecticut Sun are going to face off against the Atlanta Dream at 6. Brittany Griner and the Phoenix Mercury are going to face off against Enrique Ogunbowale and the Dallas Wings. And the last game of the night on ESPN2 is going to be between the Chicago Sky and the Seattle Storm, as Breanna Stewart's looking to inflict more damage on the WNBA. So that's what's going on with WNBA. And the biggest headline from yesterday is the end of the PGA Championship, as American Colin Morikawa, 23-year-old, just out of Cal, I believe, he finished with a score of 13 under par. As he finished with the best. He finished with the best score of the night, as he was able to take $2 million of the $11 million purse. American Dustin Johnson would tie with English Paul Casey, and they both finished 11 under. American Matthew Wolff, Jason Day from Australia, and then Americans Tony Finau, Bryson DeChambeau, and Scotty Scheffler would tie for 4th place, as they all shot 10 under. Other big names to represent, day 2 leader Hao Tong Lee would finish tied for 17th, as he shot 6 under par. Additionally, Tiger Woods would finish tied. He would finish 1 under. Also, looking down the leaderboard for big names, Phil Mickelson would finish 4 over, and then everyone else was kind of cut, and Jordan Spieth would finish 4 above. But that's how the PGA Championship would finish out. Congratulations, Colin Morikawa. Really big win for him. And considering he's only 23, I imagine this dude's going to inflict a lot of damage over the rest of golf for years to come. And with that said, I really appreciate you guys for hearing me out. Happy Monday. I hope you guys enjoy your day. I'm James Sims, and this is The Elite. Thanks for hearing me out. Peace out.